Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Within season 2 here in Black Ops 6 multiplayer, the overall meta is actually pretty fun. You have a ton of options to run if you're looking for competitive guns, and also we've got 3 new weapons from the battle pass as well. And so today I wanted to break down the new top 10 best weapons and class setups specifically for season 2 multiplayer here in BO6. And we're starting first with one of my favorite guns in the game right now, the AMES 85. This rifle is so easy but also incredibly versatile as well for multiplayer gameplay here. You could use this on a smaller map like Babylon. You could use this on a larger map as well, or a medium-sized map, since large maps don't really exist. And this thing's going to be super easy and consistent here. So first up, I like just the basic red dot. I go for the Kepler Microflex here. I also go for the compensator, just helping me out with control a lot. Vertical control being attacked there just means it's more predictable overall. The vertical foregrip here helps out with horizontal control, which means it's even more predictable. So this thing is going to be an absolute laser beam, and really anyone can pick this thing up and do well with it. Extended mag 1 here I actually do use. Typically I'm not a big fan of extended mags in multiplayer, but this fire rate's fast, and so having 45 rounds as opposed to the default mag is very helpful in a lot of scenarios. Then I also really like ergonomic rear grip on a lot of my guns. I do a lot of sliding in my gunfights in my gameplay, so being able to speed up my slide to fire speed, the ADS, things of that nature, is very important for like more aggressive gameplay. So big fan of that. You'll see that spammed on a lot of weapons here today, but yeah, the AMES feels fantastic. Next up here we've got the Krig. I also love the feel of this. Again, a very versatile rifle, really good TTK over all ranges and very easy to use, much like the AMES as well. So here again, going for that Kepler Microflex. Just not a huge fan of the irons, and this is perfect for a lot of different ranged engagements. Ported compensator in this case gives you some vertical control, that first shot recoil. The basic compensator is also a very practical option too. You can mess around with those two and see which one you felt more comfortable with. Ranger foregrip in this case, some horizontal control, but then also some sprinting movement speed. So you're getting some mobility and some control. That's a win-win in my book. Default mag works fine in this case with this fire rate, so I go for ergonomic rear grip for the better slide to fire and ADS yet again. Then also the balanced stock, which helps out with general strafe, ADS strafe, base movement speed too. So this is a very aggressive rifle that is still incredibly easy to use, which typically you don't see a ton of. If it's super fast, the recoil probably sucks, but with how BO6 attachments work, you can really capitalize on getting both of those out of this gun while maintaining a fast TTK. Next up, we've got one of our brand new weapons for season 2, the Cypher. This is a very fun rifle in my opinion. I love the feel of this. Reminds me a lot of the Groza from Black Ops Cold War. I love the iron sights on this build. Again, it's a decently aggressive rifle and we kind of build it out to be more of that, but I really do think this is probably my favorite new weapon from season 2, which I'm pretty surprised by. I thought it was going to be the PPSH. We'll talk about that here in just a moment, but yeah, the Cypher feels really, really good. So here I'm going for the compensator yet again, just to help out with some control, makes the gun a lot easier. I do like reinforced barrel here a lot. Adds in some range and some velocity. 972 velo will work fine for every single map you're going to play in BO6, but then the damage range on here is fantastic. When you're fighting in the mid-range or like cross map, this thing being so accurate means you can fry with a fast TTK with that on there. Ranger foregrip yet again for the best of both worlds, control and sprinting movement speed. I also go for the ergonomic rear grip yet again for slide to fire and ADS, and the balanced stock yet again for all the movement benefits here as well. Really fun build, versatile and easy to use, and nice fresh feeling gun since we've been using so much of the same ones for the past season. Now another new season 2 weapon is the Feng. Unfortunately, this one I'm not as big of a fan of. Because this is a new top 10 video and it's a brand new season, I always include the new weapons for you guys in these top 10 rundowns. This one though is one of those cases where truthfully it's probably not a top 10 weapon from a competitive standpoint. It's an LMG, but it really feels like a heavy assault rifle. Like, this default mag is only 30 rounds. Now the fire rate's super slow, so you don't have to worry about that, but it just doesn't feel like it should be an LMG, but it is. So it's slow and it's heavy and it's just kind of awkward. But it's a new weapon, and I wanted to make sure you guys had a multiplayer loadout for it. So again, I go for the compensator to make it easy. Luckily, you don't have to max level it to get this ideal loadout, in my opinion. Long barrel extends out that range some to a 23 meter effective damage range. The effective range on this thing is kind of weird for multiplayer. Ranger foregrip, I want to speed this up in any way I can, so that helps out a little bit there. It's not going to be a ton, but it's something, and it still makes the weapon easier to use. Ergonomic rear grip, again, just speeds it up a little bit, and balanced stock as well. A lot of copy and paste with some of these mobility-based attachments, but in this case, they are extremely, extremely useful just because of how the Feng feels by default. When I didn't have attachments on this thing, I was like, oh man, This is atrocious. Like, I couldn't get kills with this thing. I put on some attachments after I leveled it up and it felt a lot better. Still kind of awkward though. Definitely my least favorite of the new weapons. By the way, as we are going through all the weapons and setups here, if you enjoy the video, a like rating is always seriously appreciated. Really helps the channel grow. And if you're new here, maybe you have not subscribed yet, we should change that. This is your one-stop shop for everything going on in COD, multiplayer, Warzone, all the latest news and updates and patch notes, meta breakdowns. It's all here every single day, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Continuing the new weapon trend, the PPSH. I do love how this thing feels in multiplayer. Not as much as I enjoy the Cypher, but this is a very classic feeling PPSH in terms of fire rate, control. The iron sights I think are fantastic as well. The setup here is interesting though, because they did these attachments very strange. I'm still running the compensator for straight up better control. I do like the long barrel here. Anytime you can get some better range on an SMG, especially in multiplayer, it's just adding another level of versatility, and that's very clutch, right? Ranger foregrip again for some control and some sprinting movement speed, so it's more aggressive and it's a bit easier to use. And then I gotta go extended one here. The default 30, I was just running out of ammo so much because of how fast this fire rate is at 952 RPM, so 45 was a big difference maker. But then you get to the stocks, which is basically stocks and rear grips in one attachment category. Now, personally, I went for the combat stock because this is going to help out with dive to fire, slide to fire, and sprint to fire, and just make it a bit more aggressive. We can actually look at the full stats if I remove that briefly. This is doing a lot for slide to fire, jump, sprint to fire. So if you slide a lot or you jump a lot in your gameplay, this is going to be ideal. Ergonomic is also great for slide to fire and dive to fire and some ADS movement there. Quick draw is really good for a fast ADS. Pretty much no matter how you build this, you're either going to have a slower ADS or a slower slide to fire. So it's a matter of which one do you focus on more. I do a lot of sliding and hip firing with my SMG builds as I'm transitioning into an ADS, especially on small maps. So I personally like the combat stock here, but definitely really weird how they did that. I wish I could have a rear grip and a stock here so I could get the best of both worlds, but alas, that's what we got to work with. The KSV is also a fantastic SMG here in multiplayer, one of the best TTKs, fantastic range as well. Just love the feel of this thing overall. The only thing I don't love is the iron sights. So unfortunately, I got to waste an attachment here on an optic. I use the Kepler Microflex, again, just a basic red dot. I'm a lot more accurate with this than the iron, so I got to run that. Long barrel extends out that range to almost 18 meters, which is solid for an SMG. Ranger foregrip again for the sprinting speed and the horizontal control. Ergonomic rear grip again for the mobility benefits, and balanced stock again for the mobility benefits. Surprise, surprise. I like my movements, and this thing really benefits from this. It's even more snappy and aggressive, while also still maintaining good control and a phenomenal TTK. The C9 is another one of my favorite SMGs in multiplayer. Very MP5 feeling, you know, in terms of visuals, in terms of overall feel. I like how consistent this thing is as well. It's got a good range for an SMG and it's super easy to use. I do go for the long barrel first and foremost here, just under a 20 meter effective damage range, so that's obviously great. Ranger foregrip again, ergonomic rear grip again, and balanced stock again. Only thing I change up here is rather than a compensator, I use recoil springs. I get some horizontal and some vertical. I like the feel of this particular setup though, as opposed to using a compensator for whatever reason. Might just be some placebo, might just be the way that this particular weapon's recoil works, but either way, it works for me. Would highly recommend testing it out and seeing what it does for you. If you want to switch up, maybe throw on a compensator, maybe throw on, you know, an optic if you need. I personally love the iron sights. There's a couple of different ways you can build out the C9 here in multiplayer. All of them are going to be good. The gun is just outright fantastic. And of course, no real surprise here, the Jackal is also on this list as well. Just a very well-rounded SMG. It's good in the close range, the mid-range, easy to use, good mobility. I got the VMP blueprint here from, I think, Prestige 8 or something, whatever it is. I love the iron sights and the feel of this as well. So here I got the ported compensator. The base compensator would also work well if you wanted to test around at those two and see which one you like the feel of more. I found more success with the ported when I was testing out builds here. Ranger foregrip yet again, alongside the ergonomic grip and the balanced stock. And then I also do go for recoil springs here too. You absolutely could drop one of the ported or the recoil springs for a barrel if you wanted to, you know, for a mag if you really wanted extra ammo or something. But for me, this is like a max control build. It's going to be so easy and so versatile that you're going to end up frying enemies, whether you're fighting up close and personal or even over some decent ranges here on some of the medium-sized maps. We, of course, got to talk about the XM4. This is a very reliable rifle for multiplayer gameplay. A much different build than what you'd see over in Warzone, for instance, though, because of how this plays up close in 6v6 versus, you know, big maps like Urzikstan, for instance. But here, again, not huge on the irons, so I go for the Kepler Microflex. Ported compensator yet again keeps the gun feeling nice and easy. Ranger foregrip has some nice mobility, but then still the decent control elements on there too, so it's nice and predictable. Balanced stock. Now obviously most people spam buffer weight like in Warzone. Here in multiplayer though, this is going to slow you down with your ADS speed too much for what 6v6 gameplay offers. I just like the balanced stock here. It's still going to be snappy and aggressive and not nearly as slow as the buffer weight. It's still going to be super easy to use though, especially if you also throw in something like recoil springs as well, which has no real cons. It's just straight up better recoil control across the board. So an easy rifle that's also just consistent regardless of where you're fighting. And then lastly here, I wanted to feature a weapon that actually got a few adjustments with season 2, the PU-21. I don't recall the last time we talked about this thing for multiplayer, but it's actually a phenomenal LMG. Quick TTK across the board, still a little bit heavier and slower because of course it's an LMG, but if you got your sights up and you're ready, you're gonna fry enemies left, right, and center. So don't like the irons. Kepler Microflex works fine here. Reinforced barrel, you absolutely could get some better range and some velo. Why not, right? Make it even more versatile and consistent where it's already outgunning a lot of other options. Ranger, again, it being an LMG, if I can get some mobility, that's fantastic, but also get some control at the same time. And then who would have guessed? We got to wrap it up with one more ergonomic and balanced stock. That said, I think there's a place for like Fast Mag 1. It's only 45, but you get a much faster reload and it's a lot more aggressive. Feels very much so like the Bruin, if you will. So I quite like the feel of that as well. You could drop a barrel for that if you wanted to. You could test around with a couple of different builds, but the PU-21, don't sleep on it. It's surprisingly good. And that being said, those are 10 of the best weapons and setups here for season 2 of BO6. If you enjoyed the video, a like on your way out would be seriously appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Join us on getting one step closer to 1 million subscribers. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.